So since most of us are already very familiar with donating money to a social cause, right? So we look at another aspect in this conversation about how else can we contribute to social good? How can we invest in this whole social cause? So let me start with Anand. Anand, there's this whole new term called tech for good. So can you please talk about what Google is doing and to help out, and especially in areas where they're just not giving grants. So I'd love to know more about it. Thanks.
Sure. No, thanks for asking. And firstly, before I get started, it's really humbling to be in this company. I think I realize that everybody's here because they've done something, and I'm probably here because I'm associated with a great organization. So it's even more humbling as a result. I have been with Google for 10 years, and just a quick introduction, we do not have a CSR wing. I sell ads. It's not very glamorous. I sell those small ads. But what's very empowering is that the employees are essentially given a lot of responsibility. We have Raji here with me, and she works very closely with a lot of Google.org initiatives. So the employees are given to drive a lot of the strategy around technology and other support. Google invests, and as Ajith mentioned, Google invests a significant amount of money through donations. But even before coming to the technology, I'll just talk about the 3 areas that Google tries to at least bring some kind of a change through. Aside from the donations that Google directly makes to a large non-profits that Google feels can make huge change at scale through technology, etc., Google also empowers employees. So for every hour of volunteer time, Google donates $10 to the organization. For every dollar that an employee donates, Google matches that. So in terms of donations as well, Google tries to make sure that the employee interest is prioritized for where they should be investing. The second area is volunteering, where we want to be able to try and get more structured. But the big area that you're talking about, Ajith, is really about bringing technology to effect. And I can talk about examples, but we've seen very good examples of a lot of organizations that have been able to benefit with or without Google's intervention on the use of things like Google Earth. We've had applications both in the government as well as in other private sector organizations. We've had use of tools like Google Translate, and I can give a few examples as well.
By the way, we use G Suite at school.
Yes. And I think a lot of the G Suite products of enterprise applications are popular as well. And even Google AdWords ads, we offer free advertising to non-profits. But I am particularly kicked about a lot of things that their organizations use, especially around Earth and maps, around Google Translate. And even without the application of a non-profit, we also use search to be able to try and predict things like epidemics. So if there is a lot of searches about a certain term, that's what is that is starting to get faded into a lot of governments to be able to give them early warning signals for upcoming epidemics. I'm happy to delve into details. There are quite a few, but I'll probably take a lot of time with them. I will have about 4 or 5 examples.
You could probably just give one good example for the audience to understand what Google does.
Sure. So let's talk about Google Earth. At this point in time, we have this new Google Earth. So Google Earth was banned in India for quite a few years because of the controversy on the borders. About a year and a half back, we got permission once again. Google Earth has 2 portions. One is Google Earth, the interface that we usually look at and find our villages, towns that we have been in. We've also got the back-end data systems which you can access. Anybody can get access to that. And you would be able to look at driving data analysis at scale as well to be able to take decisions. We've got an example of the government that we're working very closely with, for example. So the government, I don't know if people know about it, but it was in the papers a few months back. If you take out Google Maps on your phones right now and search for toilets, so sanitation is an example where the government prioritizes. If you search for toilets right now, you'd be able to see toilets around, public toilets, along with ratings on them. So essentially, what we wanted to be able to do is to make the product useful for a particular social good. The government's also using it for looking at doing analysis on predicting possible future floods, wildfires, etc., in places that it's happening. They're working with organizations like the Nature Conservation Foundation to be able to eliminate or at least minimize human-animal conflict. Because we're using Google Earth to be able to look at where there are encroachments, urban encroachments, where animal habitats exist. So at this point in time, that's one of, I mean, I personally feel very passionately about it, perhaps which is why I'm talking a lot about it. But we certainly want to be able to enable organizations as well as the governments to be able to use products for tech products that Google has.
Okay. So I have another question for Mr. Gopal Krishna. So it's in continuation with what Anand was speaking, that a lot of employees are motivated to do something. And if an organization encourages them, they'll go ahead and invest a lot of their time as well as get a lot of good name for the organization itself. So how does Hitachi help such young minds and get it into their head that it's nice to give back something to the society?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me here. And before I answer your question, just a quick observation. I think the impact that something like the Kakatiya Foundation is having on the young minds is very visible here. In one of the breaks, I was having a interaction with some of the students, and when they started talking to me, I said, "Don't worry, I can speak in Telugu to you." And their response was, "No, we don't want you to speak in Telugu. We want you to speak in English, so that we will also be able to, continue doing that." So that's a fantastic, I think, impact that the Kakatiya Sandbox is having. So to answer your question, I think there are three broad areas where organization Hitachi is doing. One is at an individual employee level. So individual employees want to do something on their own. As an example, some of our employees during the weekends they cook, rotis and dal, and they take it to hospitals like Basavatarakam Hospital in Hyderabad, where you have people, needy people, and they distribute food. So I asked them, why do you want to do that? You can always contribute to some foundation and then get it done. And their response was, I get a lot of joy in doing it myself. So I would like to do it by myself. So there are a lot of, employees who are very keen to do things on their own. And then, of course, you have the collective. So we have a employee-run CSR called Mitra. So the Mitra channels a lot of employee-contributed funds. And they're very innovative about some of the funds. So there are specified parking areas within the campus which are close by to the lift or to the entrance. And these are marked and put up for sale. So whoever wants to take those parking space, they pay a small amount for that, and that is contributing to the fund. They also have a campaign where they say, a tea that you drink every day costs 10 rupees. Can you contribute that one tea? Can you sacrifice that one tea and contribute that to the fund? So the myth in our organization collects a lot of funding like that, and they use it with orphanage. And primarily, what they do there also is that they don't just take the money and gift it to the orphanage. They take the employees along. So the employees are encouraged to sit there, teach. So some of them teach and there are a lot of them from different parts of the country. So they teach them, Hindi, they teach them Tamil. So there is a lot of involvement from the employees, and that's very critical. And of course, at the organization level, we have a CSR fund which gets distributed through United Way. We also support the Kakatiya Sandbox. So a number of other initiatives like that. So multiple levels, these kind of initiatives go.
Yeah, that was actually answering my next question regarding CSR, because a lot of them talk about CSR funds and everyone is all interested about them. Having an involved CSR activity, I think, will also go a long way, because just giving money, I don't think will solve the problem. So we've talked about investing tech, we've talked about investing time. So now let's talk about how do we invest in the next generation. And I think Dr. Padmanabh Reddy earlier had mentioned that nutrition is one of the parts of the tripod which the kid stands on. So we have here Akshay Patra Foundation, and they're doing, everyone here knows they're doing a terrific job. So I'd love to hear more about what the foundation is doing from the CEO.
So Akshay Patra Foundation is the largest NGO in the world, supplying midday meals for children in the government schools. As of today, we are supplying almost 17 lakh children every single day. spread over 13 states. So in Telangana, we are doing the program in Hyderabad. From Hyderabad, we are covering Sangareddy, Medak districts, I think, which are coming under the purview of Kakatiya Sandbox also. And we are doing in Warangal also, so covering about 2 lakh children every single day in Telangana. So what we thought was, I'll just show you a 3 to 4 minute video clip, which will give you an idea of what exactly happens in an Akshay Patra kitchen. If you don't mind, video please.
ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ನಾವು ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯ ಏನು ತಿಂಡಿ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಹೋಗೋದು ಮನೆ ಕೆಲಸದಿಂದ, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಬೇಗ ಬಂದು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ.
ಊಟ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ.
In the year 2000, we began a simple program. Let's cook food and take them to the school and feed them in schools. Teachers reported that more children are showing up in the school than they were enrolled, and the children have become very energetic, very enthusiastic in the classroom and outside the classroom.
ಅಕ್ಷಯ ಪಾತ್ರೆ ಬಂದಾಗಿನಿಂದ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಕೂಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದಾವು ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಕೂಲಿನ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾವು.
So we have good management practices. We have enterprise resource planning. We have central procurement. We have a culture of innovation, ISO certification, periodic training of all the people involved in food safety and safe handling practices. In the year 2000, we began feeding 1,500 children in 5 schools. In 2001, we had set up our first large kitchen feeding 30,000 children in Bangalore city. By 2005, we had expanded the program to feed 300,000 children in 3 different states. By 2009, 1 million children in 7 states. And 2013, we had touched 1.3 million children in 9 states.
Education is the key to making sure that every citizen in this globe becomes a productive part of the economy. No child in this world should ever be deprived of education because of hunger.
ಅದು ಊಟ ಅಕ್ಷಯ ಪಾತ್ರ ಊಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದಿದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಗ ಓದೋಕ್ಕಾಗ್ತಾ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವನು ಈಗ BE ಮಾಡ್ತವನೆ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗು.
ನಾನು ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಡ್ಯಾಡಿ ಥರ ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡವರು ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಜನರಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಗುರಿ. ನನ್ನ ಸ್ವಂತವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಜನಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಇಚ್ಛೆ.
If all of us financially and professionally come together and help this organization, along with the state and the central governments of India, which provide the largest financial support, we can achieve the goal of serving 5 million children every day by 2020.
And being a charitable organization, we have our eyes fixed on the bottom line, and the bottom line is the children.
I want to become teacher. I want to become doctor.
Soldier.
I want to become police. Thank you, Akshay Patra.
Thank you, Akshay Patra.
Thank you, Akshay Patra.
That's a little older video. Currently, we are serving 1.7 million. So this is how we are trying to invest in the future of our country, in the lives of the children. So by giving one single meal, we saw a transformation in the child and in the family. Now, the program has started in 2000. Now there are children who passed out of engineering. They're settling in companies like HCL and they're becoming doctors and lawyers just because of one meal that Akshay Patra is giving every single day. So what we realized is, at least in this country, we should not underestimate the power of one single meal, because that has the power to take the family out of poverty in the same generation. So we have seen this in ample cases. And he's talking about the nutrition. So recently in Telangana, we have decided to give millets as part of our midday meals to the children. So every single day, we are supplying about 1 lakh either snacks or namkeens made out of millets, so that the child can grow very healthily with sufficient nutrition, and then all these children can become good citizens of this country. They will not become a burden to us, but rather an asset. So that's how we're trying to do our little bit. And with the help of organizations, many corporates, governments, it's a best model of PPP. We partner with the central government and the state governments, and even the individuals and entrepreneurs like Desh, and then Kakatiya Sandbox. So all this help has really made Akshay Patra to expand the way it is able to as of today. So we thank all of them, and we thank the Kakatiya Sandbox for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
So, thanks, sir. So, another part of the tripod is the education. And we have here with us the Agastya Foundation, and they're doing a terrific job by encouraging science and math. Because these are two aspects where most of the kids are either afraid of, or like bad teachers are completely destroying kids' perception of science and math. So I'd like to have Sai Chandrashekar and to speak a little more about what Agastya Foundation does and how it's encouraging STEM education in rural areas.
Thanks, Ajith. Firstly, thanks to Deshpande Foundation and Kakatiya Sandbox for having me here. Secondly, thanks to each and every one of you who's sitting here and listening to us. It's said that normally in any conference, if you want to know who's really interested in the proceedings, just get into the hall post-lunch and then you'll know. So I think each one of you who's sitting here are real learners who come to get to understand something. Having said that, it's actually a slight misnomer in the sense that Agastya is known as a science teaching organization. Actually, we're not. Our mission is to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, and instill confidence in children. And for us, science is only a means to that. We also deal in art, we do robotics, we do IT, so we do a whole lot of other stuff also, math. But the end result is to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, and instill confidence. The whole idea is that we need to lay a strong foundation. And once that foundation is laid, it doesn't really matter what field the child wants to build its career in. It'll be successful. So what we're looking for is behavioral shifts in the child, and 5 fundamental behavioral shifts, if you may. The first is from S to Y, which is the sense of questioning. The second is from looking to observing. We see a lot of stuff, but we very rarely observe. I don't know if there's enough time, but I'll quickly get into one very simple example to differentiate between looking and observing. All of you would have probably heard of Chanakya. He was the minister for Chandragupta Maurya, and once when Chandragupta Maurya was driven out and he wanted his kingdom back, he was going fight repeatedly, he was losing the battle. Whenever he went and invaded, again he would be driven back. And Chanakya was at his wit's end to say, hey, how come this is just not working? And he was sitting and thinking about it when he saw there was a mother feeding her child, and there was a bowl of rice and which was put on the plate, and the child instinctively put the hand into the rice to and eat, and immediately reacted, hey. Then the mother said, don't you know even so much that the rice is the hottest at the middle? Start eating from the side. And immediately it struck Chandragupta Maurya that we are trying to fight the enemy where he's the strongest. So he started attacking small villages at the periphery and slowly went in depth and recaptured. So this is called the rice bowl strategy, incidentally. So this is the power of observation. I'm sure there would be others who observed, but would probably not have drawn any lesson from that. Third is from passiveness to exploring. We do a lot of stuff. We very passively observe things, but hardly get into exploring stuff. Fourth is from textbook bound to hands-on experiential learning. And fifth is fear to confidence. So this is what Agastya is trying to do. And we use experiential learning as a methodology, science as a medium, and then the end result is a transformed individual. And that's fundamentally our journey. And we're currently doing this in 19 states across the country, touching about 1.5 million kids every year. And the enormous number of success stories that I can keep talking about, but needless to say that it's had a significant impact on the children who have been exposed to Agastya's way of learning. Thank you.
Thanks. Now I actually learned never to put my hand in the center, but leaving that aside, since this conference is all about collaborations on a large scale, so we'll make this slightly collaborative, and we'll ask the social development sector people to put out 3 of their wish lists, right? It can be anything. Non-monetary, any 3 wish lists that they want to have. And let's see if our tech guys also have 3 things that they can contribute to, and let's see if there's a match. Okay, so let's start with Chandrashekar. Okay, one of you. Any 3 wish lists?
Yeah, I have been preparing on this. So one is that Akshay Patra is able to come to this scale only because we took advantage of the technology. Without technology, scales are impossible. Because when you look at a 1 lakh kitchen, we are cooking almost 8 tons of rice every single day. 8 tons of rice and 5 tons of vegetables, 1 ton of dal. This is the kind of scale we are looking at. So Akshay Patra is able to take advantage of this technology to come to this platform. And since we are spread all over the country, we are also having ERP and all such things. So now that we are with the technological giants here, so my first wish is that Google may become our technological partner and help us resolve some of the day-to-day issues that we are facing. For example, within the kitchen, we are having ISO standards. With a lot of care, we prepare the food. But as soon as the food leaves the kitchen, now all of a sudden we are out of control. The ISO standards are suddenly come down to the road standards, or even the village, we go interior, so we have no idea. And then what happens to these vehicles? So we have hundreds of vehicles moving around into the villages. We have no idea. Sometimes drivers are not very responsible, so we are not able to get real-time data, what's exactly happening. But the food has to reach the school by, say, 11:30, 12, because the school has their own timetable to follow. So some of these issues are there, so maybe the technological partnership can be there. And also Google has a custom of changing the doodle every day. So if you can kind enough to put Akshay Patra as a doodle one of the days on Akshay Patra's appearance day, that will be a great promotion for our organization. And secondly, we are also, this is the second wish. As I said, we use a huge amount of these grains and vegetables for our cooking. For example, dal, 1 ton per day, vegetables 4 to 5 tons a day, and then millets 1 ton per day, every day, and then spices, oil, and all that. So we have a desire, if someone can collaborate with us to reach out to the farmers directly so that we can have a backward integration. We can directly procure all these materials from the farmers. We are into millets because millets are farmer friendly, and also they doesn't have a lot of doesn't require a lot of water. There is no pressure on the planet. So we want 1 ton of millets every single day. So we would like to collaborate people who are dealing with the farmers so that we can help some farmers to come out of their poverty or maybe increase their income or whatever. So this is the second wish. And the third wish is that in one of the panel discussions, Desh was mentioning to Fanindra that you bring out the problems and we will put it out for solutions. So now Akshay Patra has a lot of issues and the engineering side, technological aspects, in the logistics. We have still a long way to go to cross over these challenges. So we would like to put out the challenges, but we wanted to know if there is anybody to collaborate with us to give us solutions in these areas. So those are the three. Thank you.
Okay. So, Sai, do you have any wish list as well? And, sorry, just before you start, anyone in the audience also wanting to solve these problems, we'd love to hear you out.
That's slightly tough one, Ajith. And nevertheless, the way I look at things is that any individual or organization can be deemed to be successful when they are no longer required. So, my first wish is that Agastya is no longer required, and which can happen if the education system embeds within itself the methodology and philosophy of Agastya. Then I'm no longer required, I can go find another cause. So that would be my first wish, that the whole school system embraces this methodology and the pedagogy, heart and soul. It may be a big ask, but nevertheless that I would say is my first wish. Now, until that happens, I have to continue working, right? So, though you said non-financial, I say that I need money to continue working and expanding. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. But just money is not enough. The third thing is in terms of ideas, because all organizations say that people are our biggest assets, etc., etc. I think we've probably got bored of hearing that now. But it's the intellectual property that really can make that significant shift in anything, And how do we get there? We need a flood of new ideas in terms of how we can scale without the need for money, for example. I'm sure all of us are looking for those kind of things. So that would be my third thing in terms of ideas. And I would say that's where kind of Agastya is also involved in terms of building young, budding kids who would come out with these wonderful ideas one day and come back to Agastya and help. And I say this because I was just reminded, this is the season of the World Economic Forum at Davos. And just a couple of years back, all the CEOs who attended the World Economic Forum were asked, if you're going to be hiring someone in the next industrial revolution from 2020 onwards, what would you look for in that person? And they listed out 10 skills that they would look for in the persons. And it included only stuff like creativity, problem-solving skills, people management, etc. And these are the stuff that Agastya has been focusing on for the last 15 years, much before this conference happened. And so there's a lot of hope that we are, and encouragement that we are on the right path. And just like India bypassed the landline and went up big time in the mobile, we hopefully will bypass the Marx revolution, and come 2020, all Agastya kids will be up there. And
I'm sure some of them will be recruited as CEOs.
Thank you.
So now let me open it to the tech guys. So both of you are tech, from one of the largest tech employers in the state. And is any of the requests possible, or is there something else that you guys can do to help?
See, one of the things that I think will be very relevant here after listening to the conversation is that there are multiple stakeholders. You have the corporates, you have organizations which are promoting social good, you have entrepreneurs, you have students. I think what we can possibly do is to build a platform that enables all these different people to come together. Akshay Patra can come to the platform and say, look, I have got these series of problems. And maybe it could be different types. I need technological solution. I need volunteers for doing some activities. So all of these, if it is put up on a platform where employees from organizations are able to interact there, where you have corporates able to look at what areas they can fund in and so on, I think we can build that platform that will enable some of these issues and maybe some of the wish list to be fulfilled.
That's a quick response.
Yeah, so from Google's point of view, I think the one thing that Google at least clarifies to the employees is their focus areas. So earlier we used to have health and and abolition of human trafficking as key areas that Google wanted to be able to really make a difference on. As of today, I think the three big areas Google wants to really stay invested in are education, really big area. Economic opportunity, so he wants to be able to really try and help make sure that people are employable across and have equal economic opportunities, and diversity and inclusion. I think Google really believes in the concept of making sure that people across gender, across race, across communities have an equal opportunity. So if there are ideas or organizations working on any of these, I think Google might be biased towards trying to help. And fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have a very structured system to send a lot of these ideas through a formal channel. But which is the good part is the informal channels often work. The unfortunate part is like Raji, I have been part of Google.org as well as a 20% India ambassador. And we did try to influence the Google Doodle team because I was working with organizations like the India, there are several organizations, one in particular that request was the Leprosy Mission Trust. The leprosy is a huge issue and it's almost ignored because we want to try and say it doesn't exist. But we still wanted to be able to help, and we really tried to influence the Google Doodle team. But unfortunately, they have no influence policies where we cannot make any recommendations. Apparently, they want to keep it central and without any recommendation. But we still have a few things that we think can help. We have free advertising, right? So what we may be able to do is have Google volunteers not just set up your AdWords accounts to be able to get you the right kind of channels of mechanisms on whether it is on YouTube or on Google search, etc., to get as much more publicity across to the forums that matter. Beyond that, there have been a few good examples of pro bono consulting which might be useful. We had, again, few cases like India Literacy, I'll probably give the same example of the Leprosy Mission Trust. Now, they were one of our grantees because they, like Agastya, had also won the Impact Awards. As one of the conditions that Google had had placed was over the period of the few years that we would be providing them grants, they would also start demonstrating self-reliance, which means they would have lesser reliance on grants. Now, that would mean that they would have to generate profits from somewhere, not just... So what they were doing, so they had two parts of their business. One part was essentially creating 3D printed, custom-made shoes for every leprosy patient because they would get disfigured. And it's a huge issue because these are typically only poor people because it's a treatable disease, but it's absolutely ignored. So while we were doing that, they were also serving diabetic patients. So Googlers got involved to helping create a business plan on identifying the right kind of areas, the right hospitals, the right places to set up hospitals, the right kind of operations management systems to be able to make sure for the period, or at least help them with a plan of profitability over the next few years. If that were possible, I don't see a reason why we couldn't have some of our best operations or marketing brains made available as intellectual talent to be able to help solve for some of the other operational issues. So that's something that can already almost be committed.
So what I feel is key is that first we need to get a forum, and I'm sure Funny will be able to help, where people can put out their problems, and there'll be tech companies and there'll be other people who can come up with solutions for such problems. So, so what I can conclude from this panel is that though money is very important, as I correctly pointed out, that money is very important for any organization to run, but as long as you have certain good collaborations and you have a certain set of values and you invest in like probably tech and other different aspects, so you leverage the impact that the money does. And so with this, I conclude this panel and I open it up for questions or solutions in our case. So if anyone has any solutions or questions, please.